Now, the rest of the story.
Well, I'm kind of gradually sort of getting my work area cleaned up. Working on this thing. No, I'm not going to go test run it with the 76. Granted, I think we'd probably be surprised as to how well the 76 would pull it. It pulls that case pretty well. I guess maybe I haven't exactly talked about this thing too much. But as of right now, I just pulled both of the front gangs off, or coulters, or depending on who you are and what you like to prefer to use when you refer to this kind of stuff. But you can't quite see it so much now. But we're going to be going through replacing all of the blades and replacing all the bearings. There's 3 bearings on each one of these, and some of these, I don't know how well the camera's picking it up, but it is that one is for certain, you can see. I mean, it does swivel on there a little bit, but that is 100%. That's the bearing. So anybody that has replaced these in the past, or in the history of ever, if they're going through the trouble of removing these gangs and basically doing anything with them, you change the bearings out. You do that once where you don't change them out and have a bearing fail and have to rip the whole thing back apart to get the innermost bearing, which means everything from here out has to come out. You don't make that mistake twice. So this has never been reworked since it was new. I believe this is a 92 or a 93 machine. The farmer, we got it from a local auction. He said that he hasn't used it in the last few years, and Dad used it this spring. We put the new shovels on it. I would be surprised if he did 12 acres with it. It was pretty much just the strip across the road that we spread manure on, and a little bit at the home farm that we left just for road traffic throughout the winter. So these are dull. Seems like they've never been replaced. And I guess if I can do this one-handed, I already had one over here already, just to get a comparison as to how worn out they are. Which, for those of you wondering, if I even mentioned it, we were going to do the, what are they? The scalloped disc blades, I think is what he was referring to them as. My buddy was. I know you're not going to be able to see this too great because I don't have it perfectly lined up, but I mean, here. If that gives you much of any indication as to how much it's worn. Now, the guy that ran this, he said that he used to be able to go right into standing corn stalks and not have it plug up, which everybody that runs chisel plows is aware that they do tend to plug if you're in high residue situations. He said it wasn't an issue back when it was 27 to 28,000 seeds per acre, but he said when you start getting into high residue populations, which, well, 32,000 is the low end for us, and 38,000 is the high end. And we got, I'd say it's a pretty well averaged out in between. So, fresh disc blades on the front of this thing, while still going through and potentially VTing. We're going to see what works and what doesn't. If we can just drop in with new disc blades, even in the higher residue, with the higher plant populations, and chisel and eliminate that pass, we will. If we go through and find that it's just slowing us down too much, we're having to constantly pick up and spin around and drop back in, you're trying to you're trying to make any kind of progress, which when you're trying to do field work in the fall, the clock is always ticking because you're usually racing snow, frozen ground, and last year we won that race. The years before that, not quite so much. I mean, spring of last year, oh, was it spring of last year or 2 years ago, where we had 99% of our tillage that we had to do in the spring, and I do not like spring tillage. The reason I say that is because when you work it in the fall, and then you get into the winter temperatures where it freezes and thaws and freezes, it really mellows out that soil versus you getting the ground worked in the spring, and then it's just clumpier. It doesn't have a chance to really break up any of the clods that you're bringing up. The reason I say that is because of those 12 acres that my dad chiseled this spring, I mean, we had good conditions in doing it too. It's not like he mudded anything. I could tell, I mean, night and day. What's clearer than a night and day difference of what was worked last fall and what was worked this spring? It was rougher to pull the planter through, and some of that was even harrowed before I planted it, and it was just not enjoyable. But the planter did its job. I mean, we're getting our planter pretty well tuned in where it does a nice job. But they've always said, that's an old farmer's saying, quote, is a poor job of tillage in the fall is better than a perfect job of tillage in the spring. And I already knew that, but it confirmed it without a doubt this past spring and fall, because we did a lot of our work last fall, and it was probably some of the best planting conditions that we've had in last few years. So the reason you go through and try to work on a lot of this stuff instead of right in season is because it is a little time consuming. I did this by myself in under an hour, and that includes, you know, moving stuff and hooking up to it, getting it out here. I did drop it down onto the ground and then undid everything and picked it up and just rolled these out of the way. But it gives you a chance to work on it at your own leisure and, you know, potentially catch some things that you didn't know were an issue until you're trying to disassemble some stuff. So this right here looks to me like it's already been replaced, which is probably a reason as to why it broke. But we got this guy that is sheared off. I don't know if I can get that out of there. No, I can't. I might have to get either, honestly, probably turn part of it to liquid, if you know what I mean, and drop it out of there. Because my guess is, well, you can tell that these are standard because they are painted black with the rest of the machine. This one, I'd say, has quite obviously been replaced. I would say the reason for that was because it probably wasn't hardened like the rest of these, and granted, it is hardened, but it's only a grade 5, which is pretty much standard for everything that we use out of the parts bin. I mean, there's, the grade 2 that is incredibly soft, but I would have figured that would have been a grade 8. For the amount of abuse I'm assuming it would get. I do like that about this machine. Compared to the red machine, the case machine, our Glencoe that we used to have too, those had the straight bladed coulters on the front and meant more or less for slicing the residue so it would flow through the machine easier. Now, if you guys caught anything I said earlier on in this video, really didn't seem like it did that. It wasn't the case. I'm interested to see how this machine works by having curved blades, fresh blades, which will be nice and sharp, and having the gang actually turned a bit. So here's straight across, and that's turned. I'm looking for it to actually cut in and actually roll some of that residue down underneath, get some dirt on top of it. So when you're going through with the shovels in the back, that dirt that's already incorporated in with it will actually help the residue stay flowing through the machine, so your flow through isn't interrupted. So I don't know if there's any question as to whether or not how much we're going to use this machine. This is our primary chisel plow. If there's any questions or any doubt of that, for anybody that's watching or wondering if we're going to be using the red one, we are going to be using the red one. It's going to be on the 4640. I mean, granted, unless the 4640 ends up on this one, and we're trying to get ground worked as we're harvesting. Hasn't really worked that way the last few years because honestly, either the 46 is tied up, the 82 is tied up, or the ground conditions don't really allow it, so we could be harvesting, so we don't really have the manpower, even if a tractor was available, to go out and chisel. It's not really an option. I mean, I'm not going to put the 76 on it and tear my tractor all up because it's not really meant for that. It's a rotor. Yeah, I know there's people that use these for tillage, but my transmission on the 76 is getting, not where it's iffy, but it's getting to where I'm to the point where I'm probably just going to have it, take it up to the dealership, have them crack it open and do exploratory surgery on it, and just have them replace anything that it needs, because they did do the pressure check. And I don't know which one. It's some of the tests were coming back at 80%. Problem is they did those tests 2 years ago now, and I can't remember which ones they did. So, oh, and I do still have the windshield wiper, the rear windshield wiper on the 76. I didn't put it back on after I lost it last winter. I don't miss it. The reason I don't miss it is because I generally don't like to be running when you're in rain conditions anyway. And when you do run it, it really didn't do that great of a job of cleaning anything up where you could see out the back. And I'm getting more consistent with cleaning and washing the windows, every time you go to use it. And the tractor's been sitting in the shed, so it's all dirty and dusty right now, but it's probably going to be, another, well, I'll tell you what, today's Saturday. Not working on the Sunday. Monday, I'm planning on Dad, Ryan, and we can go through, do both these and get it back mounted in pretty much no time flat. Get this greased up again, probably back in the shed and forget about it for 2 months or so. And then I got about a day or two, I'll as well round up and say 2 days that I want to put this on the 4155 Rhino. I got some brush and some saplings and some waterways I want to clean up, so it's done. Then I want to actually go and get new blades for the Rhino, so that way we go into fall when we use it for grinding up corn stalks, for corn residue, for bedding. It's got fresh blades on it. And something else I will consider doing if the chisel plow experiment doesn't work is if we decide or find out that even with the new blades on it, with the residue management that we have, which is pretty much let them stand and chisel it if it'll allow us, but if it still won't allow the corn fodder, the residue to flow through the machine and it plugs a lot, we'll end up going back to our old plan of hit everything with the VT and then chisel. But one thing that I'd be willing to do this year, probably going forward just to get done quicker, is put the 82 on the VT, put the 7600 on the 4155, and VT plus cut the stocks, everything, just so we can get done with getting the stalks ready to chisel that much quicker. So that way, I just leaned up against cow shit. Yes, I did. Oh well, joys being a farmer. I don't want to go through and VT whatever we can. while also running the 4155 on another farm. Not to do it on everything. Let me rephrase this so you guys understand that I'm not saying VT and then go through it with the Rhino cutter, or not go over the same field with both machines. I mean go over everything with one or the other. So either VT or hit it with the 4155 Rhino and shred the stalks. So at least all the stalks are managed in some way, shape, or form. So that way we can hook up the other chisel plow and run 2 chisel plows and just get done with it. If that doesn't make any sense at all, I apologize. But I went through last year, I ground up with the Rhino cutter a bunch of fodder, a bunch of stalks that I had planned on baling that we in turn didn't need. Early on during fall, and by the time we went through and chiseled it, because I was chiseling with only one disc gang on the case, and it flowed through that machine without even the gangs down just fine. So if that means that it's going to get those stalks decomposing that much quicker, I'll do it. It's worth it. The 7600, if I'm not hauling in grain with the 76 behind the easy trail, I'll do it. I'll hook the cutter up, and I'll see if Brittany can go cut, or I'll go cut half the night. Spring and fall are hectic, but it's worth it because you're setting up your following year for success. Now, how much more do I want to talk? I think that's it. So this is probably it for the chisel plow video you really see from me, because I'm not going to film us working on it. I mean, maybe Ryan will, but pretty much just working on it at my own leisure. It rained last night, this morning. They're calling for more rain, and I'm a one-man crew right now, so I could start tearing that apart, but I gotta go home and watch Relina. So you guys are watching the rest of the story. My videos are backlogged, by the way. That's why they're dated at the front. So chances are by the time you guys watch this video, this is probably done and already put away, because you guys are, oh gosh, I think you're like a week behind. So it can't be helped. It's the only way to keep the videos up. So thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Take care. Take it easy. Keep in touch. Talk to you guys later. Well, I'm back out in the barnyard. I'll probably tack this on to the end of the chisel plow video. Came out to check Junior. Junior's over there. You're looking into the sun. Let me get the sun to my back so you can see what I'm looking at. I'm looking at this one. The reason I'm looking at this one is because she's looking like she's getting ready to have a calf. She's out of the same group as the one that just dropped a calf yesterday. Now 151 was probably the most aggressive when it came to protecting her baby. Not for me, and this is Susie Q, I guess. Somebody commented Susie Q. Susie Q is actually kind of a cute name. I had another name that actually would have fit her perfect. If I can think of it, I'll put it as a caption. I'm not sure what's all going on with these guys. Granted, I bought these guys, not her, she's mine, which the tan one, she's won me over. She's gonna be kind of like an odd duck, but she's pretty. I like her. Body, temperament, everything. So she gets a free pass. When you buy bred cows, there's a reason that they're being sold as seasoned bred cows. Now the yellow tags, blue tags are heifers when you buy them. The green tags, I believe, are 3 to 5 years old, and yellow tags means that they are 5 to 7 or 5 to 8 years old. And then the red tags, like my big tan one, let's go over and look at her, because I get into the later part of the summer, or towards the end of summer, I don't generally worry about watching for calves. I only found that calf yesterday just because I was looking around the corner to see if they needed any more feed, and there she was. The red tag, this is the only red tag cow I had. Her calf that she had paid for her. Paid $600 for her. Older cow, obviously. Red tag means she's a broken mouth, which means her teeth are not the greatest. Now, she doesn't look like she's really getting ready to have a calf, but
for how big she is. I mean, she was a big framed cow regardless, but I almost wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't drop a calf here. So late season calves aren't that big of a deal to me. I mean, the one I had last year, which he and his mom are down at my place because they've been with the Black Angus bull long enough where they should have been bred back, or she should have been bred back. The only thing is he's going to go in the freezer because he's kind of like an odd duck out. He's going to be missized compared to everything. And for those of you that don't sell cattle, have never sold cattle, and you know, are just kind of naive to it, when you sell feeder calves, yearlings, when you sell anything less than, I think it's 3, or it might be 5, you know, small little groups of 5, whatever, they sell better versus a group of 1 or 2. I mean, you only sell 1, you tend to get discounted on it a little bit. So I really don't want to haul up one 500-pound feeder calf that's just kind of an odd duck, and I'd probably really feel like I'm getting, you know, taken away or giving him away. So I'm really hoping for heifers at this point, because heifers, I'm a low input producer. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm cheap. I mean, they get the minerals and stuff like that, but I'm borderline grass-fed cows pretty much the whole way. We got the down corn at Rockville, which looks kind of crummy, but at the same time, I honestly don't feel it's as bad as it was last year. Just time will tell. But we'll be making fodder again this year, so any of those ears of corn that are still in the field, granted at this point in time I don't think it'll be as many as last year, the cows digging through the corn fodder to get those ears of corn, I think they really appreciated that last year. And Tim Martin, I know I addressed him, I thanked him for sending me that feed a while back. We haven't broken into it. It's sitting in 2 pallets in the machine shed yet. I'm really surprised he hasn't asked me about it. I haven't done anything on it just because I'm not really ready to start feeding it. My brother's planning on feeding it this fall. Ryan's already took some footage for it for his video, but for mine, I was planning on waiting until later on here. But I really should just pull out a couple of bags and you guys can at least see what he sent. And I actually think it'll be some pretty nice stuff. The guy that talked about it, come up and talk to us about it, really sold me on it. I mean, it's cottonseed, and I guess I'll drop it at that for now because it's not right in front of me. So number 11's out of that same group. I mean, they're built nice. I mean, they honestly, looking at her, 11, 151, I'm thinking could easily be dropping a calf here anytime. They're healthy enough, their guts are big enough, they could easily have a calf in them, and you really wouldn't think twice about it, or wouldn't really think much about it. So that's what I thought with her. And you compare her to some of these other ones. I mean, look at 147. I mean, maybe I got a bunch of fall calving cows, which, well, if I get 3 or 4 steers this point in the game, yeah, I guess I'll be selling a small group of steers next year. But synchronizing the cattle is going to be a bigger issue. Our problem is that we don't necessarily have a lot that we can just put the bulls in for XYZ amount of times. So generally we try to keep them in when the cows need to be bred back, and we just leave them in with them. That's how you get these different timed calves like this, which, granted, it's not the end of the world. You don't see me complaining. You're not going to hear a cattle guy complaining about a calf ever, or turn down a calf like that. But I guess just generally I need to be watching these guys a little bit closer here going forward. So now for real this time I gotta go. So I'll talk to you guys later.